Good evening, YouTube. This is Kaylin Stern coming at you with my regular Sunday night dinner. And tonight, as I mentioned last Sunday, that I am going to be digging into this first strike ration over the next tonight and next Sunday. The following Sunday, I will most likely not be home in time from the White Eagle Multicultural Powwow that weekend on the 21st. Or I just may be too tired and really not feel like streaming. And usually we eat supper before we do leave because we're starting to help clean up and put things away. But what I have here is a menu 8 packed by Sopaco. This has the sandwich, honey barbecue chicken, and then tuna. And you, as I flip it over, you can see the albacore tuna packet. This packaging is the older style packaging. This does not have a peelable seal. The date code is stamped up here, but because this is a clear bag, you really can't see it. I just cut it from the back. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull everything out, and then I'll decide what I'm going to have. This is a mini mocha first strike bar. There are 4 flavors of these. There's the mocha, the chocolate, the apple cinnamon, and the cran raspberry. This is an orange drink powder. This is the military energy gum. This is caffeinated gum. This is the it's like a cool mint type. There's 5 pieces in here, 100 milligrams of caffeine per piece. You can buy these on Amazon and at sites that sell rations, or just people selling. They'll buy a huge lot of these and then just resell them. And then this is a brown Ziploc bag. They always have these sealed up, and I tend to keep them sealed up. That way the inside stays clean until I actually need to use it. You can either use this to store your unused items for the rest of the day, since this is a 24-hour ration, or you can pack out trash in it, or you can put water in it if you need to purify, say, a couple of quarts or a couple of liters of water. Chocolate banana nut muffin top. This got bent, so it's definitely broken. You do get a spoon in here, or you can stir a drink. This is the barbecue chicken sandwich, so it's a filling inside of bread, like a lot of the Bridgeford items are. This is the vanilla dairy shake, but they did not seal the top, so a lot of the drink powder is up here. But it's in the shaker bag, so you can drink right out. You can mix it in here and then drink right out of it. Cheddar cheese crackers, also known as Cheez-Its. Accessory packet 1. And this one has coffee. I'll get into those in a minute, so I'm just going to set that off to the side. You always get 2 accessory packets in these rations. The filled French toast, which would be the breakfast item. The recovery trail mix, and this is apparently a larger portion, I think. It might be the same size. The spoon dropped. I just go ahead and move that to the side anyway, since I don't use those spoons, I save them. Barbecue flavored beef strips, like beef jerky. I can feel 2 pieces in there. Fat-free mayonnaise, that would be for the tuna. Italian bread sticks. I actually find those somewhat enjoyable. This is a cinnamon zapple sauce. There's the original flavor and then the cinnamon. And this is made to be sucked right out of this pouch. So it's a little bit runnier than your typical applesauce. Actually, on this one, they cut down to 1 accessory pack, so they must have decided to combine these. And then this is the tuna. These used to have, like I said, 2 accessory packs, so it appears they have combined. So you get a rear roll. I'm going to set these off to the side. The original size salt packet, the way it used to be before they went to 1/4 this size. Standard matches. White tip, although I have absolutely no idea what the match color means. In addition to the military energy gum, you get 2 pieces of cinnamon gum. You get 3 wet wipes in here. And this is the standard sugar packet that used to be in there before they switched to a food service branded packet. And you get the coffee creamer and the Bill's Brew. So those will go into my delicious mug. The items I'm not going to use, I'm going to dump back into the ration bag. And then I'm just going to use a Walgreens bag for my trash. Got burger butter, got multi-magnum, pepper for the ages, Cold War Prepper. Those are the names I see so far. I'm not going to mess with this dairy shake. So I'm going to put that back in the bag. I'm going to save the beef jerky for next week. I will save the Italian breadsticks for next week. I'm going to put the tuna back in. I will put the Zapple sauce back in. And I'll put the recovery trail mix back in. We'll save that for next week. And I will put the fat-free mayonnaise in here. I will keep this First Strike bar out since it's a little thing. And I'll stick this bag back inside the ration bag as well. It would be nice if they would actually seal the zip seal on these pouches. That way you don't get powder in it. That way when you go to try to mix it in the pouch, you have less chance of having a mess. I have my spork. This is one of those drink powders I always mix up first because it takes such a long time for all of this to dissolve. Just a hair too much water in there. So I'm going to be very careful with stirring this. I kind of wonder if with newer versions of the First Strike ration, if the packers are eliminating the coffee out of these as well, or if they're leaving it in like they should. I would be interested to see what a 23 or 24 pack First Strike would have in it. I'm going to go get the water for the coffee, and I'll be right back. I am back. I just took my kettle back into the kitchen just to get it out of the way. You only get one coffee in this. And then the one drink cutter like this, but the dairy shake you could probably have with one of the other meals. But thanks for dropping in, John. Hope to see you another time. You can always catch it on the replay. I'm going to put my filled French toast on top of my coffee mug. I'm going to open up everything else. Because this one happens to be the mocha. This could be, you could have this with another meal. Plus you have the caffeinated gum. That could be another option for the extra caffeine. This has a tear notch way down here, which I think is stupid. They need to be better at where they place the tear notches on these packets. So I cut my own. Well, actually, these are combos. Oxygen absorber in there. There's Mike Ration in the house. He did put up a video earlier today of Canadian IMP. And I'm very intrigued by that menu. This is the chocolate banana nut muffin top. Yeah, this is definitely bent over inside the ration bag, so yeah, you can see by that how it got affected by being squished so hard. Yeah, that IMP looks very, very good. And that's all I'm going to say about that. You'll have to go check that out for yourself. This is a pretty thick one. That's how thick it is. Now, oxygen absorber fell right off. Waffles is here. Thanks for dropping in. I'm starting my orange drink. I almost overfilled my drinking jar, so this is going to be a bit weaker than I would prefer. for those just coming in, this is a 2019 First Strike Menu 8. I'm going to go ahead and open up. Well, that didn't work. That is a filled French toast. Stanton Shenanigans, haven't seen you in a minute. Thanks for dropping in. So this is the barbecue chicken sandwich. I'm going to go ahead and break it open. A decent amount of filling in there, but pretty thick bread. Definitely a sweet barbecue flavor with a little bit of tang. Yep, this is menu 8. This First Strike was packed in 2019 by Sepaco. These are the cheddar combos. Not a huge number of these, but for on the go, that would be a good pocket snack. Just like the recovered trail mix would be. These are the cheddar filled. They're not the pretzel like the cracker. More the cracker type. At first I was expecting Cheez-Its, but nope, it's the combos. But I'm okay with that. Got the filled French toast here. A maple muffin top, which got busted because it was literally bent over inside of the ration bag. This is a mocha First Strike bar. This is a mini version. A little bit shorter than the standard length. But if this could be warmed up, it'll probably taste a lot better. But these Brentford sandwiches are actually not that bad. My favorite used to be the mocha until I discovered the cran raspberry. But the cran raspberry is definitely my favorite of the four flavors. There'll be the mocha, then the chocolate. The apple cinnamon is my least favorite of the four flavors. I'll still eat it. There's just something slightly different about the texture of it. It's not quite the same as the other three flavors. It has more of a cereal bar vibe to it, but yet it still feels like this. But yeah, the cran raspberry is the best one to me. Some people may favor the apple cinnamon, or they may favor the mocha or the chocolate the most. You know, everybody's taste is different. Yep, see, Mike likes the apple cinnamon. It would be nice to see additional flavors of these produced to have even more variety. Yep. I'm that way too, unless it is an inedible. You know, if it's just too far gone, yeah, I won't eat it. For these first strike rations are perfect for like an overnight camp where you cannot have a campfire or the weather becomes just too nasty for a campfire. And if you have to cold mix your coffee, you would do that. If you have no way of heating the water. Or some may take the coffee and dump it into the shake powder and make a caffeinated shake out of it. Well, maybe someone can create one. I post all of my thumbnail pictures in the Discord and the Ration thread, not in the main chat. I, I tend to reserve that for figure that's where other topics go. Yep, some people will put the coffee in their protein shake. Or if you have one of the pudding powders, I do have a few of those. You could put the coffee into that pudding powder and caffeinate your pudding. That banana nut muffin top is very dry. But you take a drink of the coffee right after eating a bite of that. Yeah, that works. I wouldn't try dipping it in there because it could just end up falling apart because it got literally folded over. But like Waffles does, he puts a coffee packet in his protein shake. I have never done that with any of those, so I've always just prepared them straight up. But now that I have an extra one, I may try that at some point. I have a whole bunch of the Taster's Choice packets because I have been buying several boxes of those over the past few months. I take those packets out of those boxes and I put them in a Ziploc bag. So I got plenty of those that I could mix with one of the shake powders if I wanted to. Yep, I have a Canadian vanilla shake, and I think I have another one of the US vanilla shakes. So I could do a comparison. And now that I have this other vanilla shake powder, I could have a little fun with it. Another way, like putting coffee in it. And speaking of comparisons, I am still waiting on that Polish ration with the real goulash to come, but it's stuck in a customs hold. So I have a feeling it has gotten raided. I hope it gets left alone. It's been sitting at that place since think last Thursday. I mean, it got from Poland to the U.S. fairly quickly. But it's stuck at the place where it's being held. And it's supposed to come by FedEx, so I have no idea when it will get to leave that location, if there's anything of it left. But trying to find one of those so I could do a proper comparison between the American goulash and the Polish goulash, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take the risk. I just hope that the ration remains intact. Wayne Hunter, thanks for dropping in. You're looking at a 2019 pack First Strike ration. This is the only American 24-hour ration currently in use. This is menu 8. I'm splitting this up into 2 meals. This is a barbecue chicken filled sandwich. This is a filled French toast. And it looks like a lot of bread, not a whole lot of filling in this one. Sometimes they get like that, which can be a bit of a bummer. The cheddar cheese combos, the cracker, not the pretzel. This is a banana nut muffin top, which literally got folded over in the bag. So it's definitely busted. This is a mocha flavored First Strike bar, so it's the caffeinated chocolate, a bit of a dark chocolate flavor to it. It's orange drink and the coffee. And then anything that I did not get into is in the bag. Some of the items I obviously will not use, but I saved them. Mother Earth Garden Club is here. Thanks for dropping in. But putting a morale booster like these combos in there, that's a win. Yeah, and if you warm the cinnamon bun, like I had it sitting on top of my coffee mug for a little bit. That definitely wakes up the flavors when you do heat it. But unlike doing it here at home or in a campsite where you can heat things up, a soldier in the field on a remote mission or training exercise may not have that luxury. If they're trying to be engaging in a stealthy mode, having a heat source may not be an option. So that's where this kind of ration comes into its own. Yeah, keep talking like that. CR might show up. He was in Shadow Scout Swede's chat yesterday afternoon. And there was a little bit of food talk going on. Not a whole lot, but there was a little bit of food talk. Yeah. But sometimes you gotta have that butter once in a while. Personally, I would rather use butter than the margarines. Yeah, the margarines are cheaper, yeah, but I have been buying the spreadable butter. It has canola oil in it. Can't seem to find the one with the olive oil. It could be an issue with the supplier of the olive oil, or it just sells out too dang fast. But that's what I have been buying lately is the spreadable butter. I have blocks of butter in my freezer. Both salted and unsalted. So if I have to get into one of those in a pinch, I have them. Plus, I like the way when you actually frying butter, I like that better than the margarine. But if that's all I can afford to get, I'll I'll get that. But if I can get the butter, yeah. I do have cooking oil, not a whole lot since I don't do a whole lot of frying, but I do have some. Yeah, the natural fats, of course, even with the olive oil, you have to be careful of that. Make sure that it's 100% olive oil, or same with the coconut oil, you want 100%. You can buy lard, you can buy tallow, but when you buy those, you have to make sure that you're getting the real thing. It's just like honey. You can look at bottles, but if it doesn't say one honey as the only ingredient, then you definitely want to avoid it. Plus, I don't like how the honey blends taste anyway. some people who have the ability to properly render the beef fat to make tallow and then can it. Yeah, that's probably the best way. That's just something I can't do here. My stove is old. My one large burner doesn't work at all. I have 3 small ones instead of 2 large and 2 small. So I only use the 2 left burners. And plus, when I tried slow cooking one time on the stove, it shut off after an hour. So that cuts out any longer duration canning that I would do if I had a canner. I can water bath. I have a deep enough stock pot I can get some pints in maybe about 4 or 5 pints and maybe 3 quarts. But because the stove will tend to shut off after an hour, it's not worth a bother to try it. And my Instant Pot is not the Max, it's the Duo. The Max model, you can actually can in. You can only do pints or half pints in it. Disabled and Prepping has the Instant Pot Max, and she does her canning that way. She puts in 4 pints at a time. So that is the only way that she does any canning. So basically everything gets pressure canned, even it can be a water bath. But that's just what works for her. So she may get a good deal on some meats, and then she will can at 4 pints at a time. Because she only has the freezer that's on top of her fridge. She doesn't have a second freezer, and I'm the same way. I would love to be able to can the meats that I have, but I just can't do that. So they stay in the freezer until I want to use them. Tim Riley in the house, thanks for dropping in. I do have a small pressure cooker that was a roadside find. It's not a very deep one. So I cook in it once in a while. But now that I have the Instant Pot, that actually holds a little bit more than that little pressure cooker does. Plus I can set it for different things. Yeah, butter was pretty much all we had when I was growing up as well. But when times got really hard and the margarine was less expensive, and of course the parents bought into all the hype about it, we did get a fair amount of it. We still got butter, but we did use the margarine. But butter is definitely better. Yeah, I don't buy cabbages because it's just me. The cat's not going to eat it. And I was talking to someone about cabbages. If you can't can it, would it freeze? And the person I was talking to said that the cabbage does not freeze well at all, and it ends up becoming pretty much mush. And I don't have the space to make a big bunch of cabbage rolls, which is a dish that I grew up on. My mom's Polish cabbage rolls. So I don't buy it, and I can't grow it here because I don't have the sun for it. Yep. Because I buy beef bacon, I save the fat from that. And I've cooked potatoes in it, I've cooked eggs in it. That's the way to go. Yeah, I have had some good homemade kimchi a few years ago when I won a giveaway done by Tak, who is going to be changing her channel name back to AOK Foraging and Adventures because she's feeling that's where her heart is, as much as she loves the urban homesteading type stuff. She feels like she's herself when she's out wandering on a trail looking for wild edibles and medicinal plants, or when she's hunting or fishing. But I want to give away, and she gave me a couple of jars of the kimchi that she made herself. In fact, I could not wait to get into it. A little while after she left, I dug into one of those jars and I ate it. Of course, when we used to have a Korean restaurant here in Des Moines called the Korea House, every time I went in there, no matter what other entree I was getting, I always got a side of kimchi. That was some really good kimchi. I really enjoyed that, and I miss that place. Yeah, me too. I like pickled beets. There's a woman who attends my mosque, and sometimes when she makes the salad for a community meal, she will cut up a few cans of the pickled beets and throw them into the salad. And maybe incorporate the liquid from those beets into the dressing. Yeah, I don't know about sponsored because I don't have any channel sponsors. The closest thing to that would be anyone who wants to be channel member. I don't think I have any members at the moment, but I do have that enabled. But as far as sponsors, I do have some video clips that I shot almost 2 years ago. I posted them in a Facebook group for the company that made the two products that I shot the video clips on. But I should put those clips together into a single video. And because one of the two items that I did the demonstration of was actually sent to me for that purpose, and they used some of the clips that I had submitted. The other one I actually won in a giveaway, but when I was offered the chance to shoot some videos for the one that they would send me, I said, well, I have one, I have a different model, but they said, yeah, shoot videos of that too. And so that's what I did. I had to improvise a couple of things in there because I could not quite do what I wanted to do, but I still made it work. So I still have those clips on my phone. I need to get them off. I need to string them together and maybe shoot an additional clip saying that this would be a sponsored video because I was sent one of the two items specific for some videos on how the item works, how to use it. Yeah, the French onion soup mix. When one of my sisters makes that beef and au jus, or also known as a French dip, the French onion soup mix is the base for that broth. In fact, that's what my mom used to do when that first came on the market. She started using that as a shortcut in making the broth because it had the seasonings, it had the flavor, so it was a time saver. Yeah, some of them, especially when you get into those lesser known brands, they need so much doctoring up just to make them taste decent. You're better off using them as a starting point for something else. Well, CR, are your ears itching? We were talking about you earlier. I've only been to South Bend, Indiana. It was a relatively short stay. So that's the only place in Indiana I've actually spent more than just road time. When I was with a group that went there, we passed through Chicago. And we kind of got jammed up on the toll road that was going into Chicago. So that was a bit of an issue, but yeah, we were traveling in a bus. We had chartered a bus, and the toll workers got all confused about which lane a bus should go through. It's like these people didn't know how to do their job. It's like our bus was not the only one to go through there. There are these interstate buses that go in and out of Chicago all the time. But back then, I guess we must have caught some people on a bad day or just didn't bother to take their training seriously and have no clue which toll lane a bus is supposed to go on. But that's my only experience with spending any time in Indiana. And we stayed in a halfway decent hotel there in South Bend. But other than that toll road issue, that was a pretty decent trip otherwise. But I hardly get out of Iowa these days. think the last time I had been out of Iowa was probably maybe 15 years ago. Could have been longer than that. We had gone to visit some cousins, and we had my maternal grandmother. We went to the Henry Dorley Zoo in Omaha, and we got an adult stroller for her because she was already having mobility issues. So we had a good time hanging out there. Of course, then in 2012, I took a megabus from here to Chicago for a few days, but megabus hasn't been running in Des Moines for a few years. I don't even know if they're still in existence. But they're supposed to be a low-cost interstate bus. And we had a stopover in Iowa City where we had to change buses. And you have to pay for each leg of the trip separately. You can't just buy one fare and cover all legs both ways. And the farther out you booked your first leg, and then your second leg, however many buses you have to take to get to your destination, then the cost could be lower. But yeah, I still did that. But that's the last time I have been out of Iowa. I would like to go to some other places, but that's just not going to happen anytime soon. Oh, wow, I bet that was a good sauce. I wonder if Comfrey, Minnesota has a Comfrey Festival. Just out of curiosity. Yeah, the lighter color the tomato, the less acidic. You can even find white tomatoes. But trying to find those locally outside of a farmer's market or buying the seeds and trying to grow your own, that'd be easier said than done. I would actually like to find white tomatoes and see if one of my sisters could tolerate eating those, because she's basically given up on anything tomato. She doesn't eat pizza, she doesn't eat tomato sauce on spaghetti. She doesn't even eat ketchup on a burger or a hot dog. And when she can make her own salad, what she wants in it, or she's at a restaurant and pick off the salad bar, she won't put any tomatoes on her salad. That's probably something that is not in her mind. My two sisters, this one that I'm speaking of, and my sister next to me in age, they would. They used to have some cherry tomato plants or grape tomato plants in a pot on the deck, even though they do have a yard. Or they had some bell peppers, but they have a big rabbit problem in their neighborhood. So they won't put any plants in the ground that would attract rabbits. One of them tried strawberries, but the rabbits got to the plants before very many of the strawberries actually got to mature enough to be picked. Yeah, a lot of commercial companies will put sugar in their pasta sauces. The one time when we had a whole bunch of tomatoes that someone had left at the mosque that I had stashed in the freezer so they wouldn't go bad because we were not going to use them in time, I ended up taking some of my dried herbs from home and I took all those tomatoes and I made a whole bunch of pasta sauce and then redivided that up and put that into containers and put that in the freezer for later use. And I threw in this big pot maybe a quarter, not quite a half cup of sugar, maybe a third cup of sugar in this big pot of tomato sauce that I made. Because I didn't want it sweet, but just a little bit in there. I don't always like a sweet pasta sauce, so that's why I didn't put a whole lot in there. But later on, when we were using that sauce, people did like it. So I guess I did a good job. If I had the equipment to, like a big canner and a bunch of jars, I probably could have canned the sauce there instead of putting it in the freezer, but I didn't, so we had the containers that can go in the freezer, so I just did that. So I just wanted to check the battery level on my phone. So my phone was fully charged and power bank is fully charged. So I'm hoping that, and I'm using a different cord than I had been using. So I don't think I should have the sudden cutoffs like I did the last two Sundays. But I just want to make sure that I'm still going strong as far as battery level. Yeah, this is Bill's Brew with the creamer and the sugar that came in a ration. Got the orange drink. The first strike bar that I finished off was the mini mocha flavor. So this barbecue chicken sandwich is not bad. It's a bit dry, like a lot of these tend to be. So you definitely want to be having something to drink when you eat these. This ration was packed in 2019. So there would most likely be coffee in every U.S. ration, or nearly every U.S. ration, every menu that was produced in that year and before. But in the past few years, even 22, I've noticed with the Amories that I've been opening up, very few of them have coffee in the accessory packets. And that's not a good thing when they cut that out. Thanks for dropping in, Waffles. Again, Waffles sent me a 2024 pack case B. I still have several of those up for review. Three of the menus I traded off for the Ration cold weather because they contain pork, which I do not eat. Muslims, like Jews, do not eat pork. So I traded those off for an awesome Ration cold weather. Some of those items didn't quite survive, but it was still very cool to check that one out. Took my V in the house. Thanks for dropping in. Old cheddar cheese combos. Can't go wrong with those. Now this barbecue chicken sandwich If someone in the field had a way to heat this up, it would be more enjoyable, but for what it is, even though the bread is pretty dry, there's still a decent amount of filling, decent amount of flavor in there. I think I had got this one off of Amazon probably very early in the year or late last year. So I've had this thing a while. And I decided tonight I'm going to go ahead and bust it out. Well, Ciara, you'll have to do something about that because I don't have access to a transporter. I can't transport anything to you. Replicators aren't available yet. So you'll have to source something on your own. A maple or banana nut muffin top got literally bent in the ration bag, so it was already busted before I even opened it. This is barbecue chicken. I'm gonna bring it up to camera, let you get a good look at it. There's a bit of a delay in between my phone and what I see on my tablet screen, so I look over to it just to make sure that I'm getting it held up right for you all to look at. This is the filled French toast, and there's not much filling in here. I think this half might show it just a little bit better. It's a lot of the bread. But when you warm this thing up, it brings out the flavor. Just like when I warmed up that cinnamon bun. The last time I had one of those, I just literally sat it on top of my mug so it took the heat from the coffee. And heating that up actually brought out that cinnamon flavor, which I really liked. Yeah. They're going on the cheap with it by having just enough in there to call it something other than bread. I think the first time I had one of these First Strike rations, there was more filling in these than there is now. Which is a shame that they would cheapen out on this. You think with the budget that the Defense Department has for these, that they would pay for quality as much as they are quantity. But the sugar packets have been reduced in amount. The salt packets have been cut way back. You don't get the coffee in most menus. And I bet the soldiers who are having to rely on these for their sole food source when they're doing exercises or on mission, they got to be pretty bummed out. Now that IMP that my pressure opened up, that was a 23 pack, and that had something in it that's new for the IMP, a single mint, kind of like a lifesaver or breath saver, but the company that made those put the maple leaf on it just like the compressed towel. So that was an interesting change in the IMP that I thought was pretty unique. Plus that main that he had, that looked pretty darn awesome. I would go for that in a heartbeat. That looked really, really good. So you have to check out Mike Kresher's video from today to see what that was. So this is orange drink, the standard orange drink powder. I just add a little bit too much water to it. So the flavor's a bit light for my liking, but it's fine. I'll finish it off. Yeah, this is the Bill's Brew coffee that was in here. I was happy to see that. If that coffee would not have been in there, I had a G7 on standby. Nope, but they're good for if you have to drink treated or filtered water. Or if you're using an electrolyte drink powder, which I used a few. I took some to the lake and I used 3 of them that I took with me, and then we came back. My one sister was going to be doing the prep for a colonoscopy, and they said she could use electrolyte drink powders as long as they are not dark colored. So I showed her one of the lemon lime ones that I have brought with me, and after asked her if she would want to try, and so she said she would, so I gave it to her. I don't know how that went. I haven't seen her post about it, but then I don't see very many posts from all of my Facebook friends. I have so dang many, but she said she would use it, and if she liked it, she would probably get more just to keep on hand at home. This one is Body Armor brand. So yeah, they have their name on an electrolyte drink powder, and I gotten some of those, and when you mix them to the strength that you like, it's not too bad. You know, some people may want it a little weaker, some a little stronger, so they vary the amount of water. But they're made to fit in a bottle of this capacity. This is a 500 ml or 16.9 ounce capacity bottle. It just looks bigger because it's a double wall. But they're made to go in that size water bottle. So I took them. I wanted to try them out because I knew it was going to be hot. And so I did use 3 of them. And I'm definitely glad I did. Yeah, when you're doing a lot of heavy work or heavy activity, or when you're sweating a lot, you want those electrolytes, and that's why I took some of them with me to the lake. Yeah, not exactly lots of shade along the bank, so sitting there fishing, I'm getting hot, so I wanted something more than just water, so that's why I used some of those electrolyte drink powders. And when Ramadan was happening in the summer months, when I would break from my fast, I usually had one of those little bottles of coconut water. So I would drink that. And that's a natural electrolyte source as well. So someone bought me a bunch of those, and I bought some for myself. But yeah, I drank those coconut waters when Ramadan was happening in the summer months. Well, you just get to that review whenever you feel like you're ready. You know, fortunately, you don't have to deal with the kind of stuff that Carlos has been dealing with. But I think eventually he'll get back to doing more videos. He's tossed up a couple of mail calls. But when you feel like you're ready to do it, go for it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he knows by now that there are quite a few of us keeping him in our thoughts. I would not wish that kind of situation on anybody. So I hope he can get that situation resolved soon and he can get back to living a normal dad life. Coffee just brings out the flavor of that filled French toast. I think it wakes up the spices that are in that filling. I think it would be fun if we did kind of a surprise for him. I don't know if he'll watch the stream later when he's able to, or but I think it'd be fun to do some kind of a nice surprise for him. We'll have to talk about that in another way, but I think that'd be fun just to give him something to look forward to, something to bring a little joy to his life. Thanks for dropping in, Mike. Yeah, I think we can pull something together. Now, next week, when I get into more of this stuff, I may pull a couple of items from my stash. So the only spread this came with was mayonnaise for the tuna. But I may dig out a cheese spread for the breadsticks and actually have a little pickle relish packet in my fridge. It came in one of those little box lunches. Or one of those tuna salad kits that you take the mayonnaise and a little relish packet and mix that in with the plain tuna. I ate the tuna out of that, but I added my own stuff to it. So I have that little relish packet. I may bring that out to mix that with the tuna. And then for the breadsticks, I may bring out a cheese spread. But thanks for dropping in. Yeah, check out Stanton Shenanigans channel. She has reviews on a mix of rations, and she usually does them in her kitchen, laying things out on her stovetop. I just like taking a sip of coffee after eating a bite of this banana nut muffin top. It just seems to wake up the flavors. That's okay. You know, when you gotta go, you gotta go. Life happens. So next Sunday I'll get into more of this ration. I'll throw in a couple of items from my stash. I'll decide whether or not I want to bring out that vanilla shake and if I want to add something to it. Or if I want to bring out a different drink mix. I'll decide that for next Sunday. Prepper for the Ages is here. Thanks for dropping in. I finished off the mini mocha first strike bar. I finished off the cheddar cheese combos, the cracker version, not the pretzel version. The barbecue chicken sandwich is gone. So this is the filled French toast, but it's not all that filled. The filling is kind of sparse in here. There are a few spots where you can see where it's come through to the outside. But if you warm this, it tastes better. And if you eat this and then take a drink of the coffee, that also brings out the flavor a little bit. The bread in these things is very dry, so you want to have something to drink anyway. Oh, ouch. I hope that it wasn't too bad and hope that your sister has a fast recovery. Oh. Oh, that really sucks. Cancer sucks. I've lost too many relatives and some friends to it. But two of my relatives, after they died, their bodies went to the Genesis Cancer Research Center in Memphis, Tennessee. And what they do is they study the particular cancer and they do research on how to treat those cancers, and they do a full autopsy and then send that report to the donor relative, in this case my mom. And then they pay a certain amount of money towards a final expense, and they will send that directly to either a funeral home or a company that makes caskets or urns. In this case, they cremate the body after they have finished doing their work with it, and then they send the ashes to the donor relative. So they would pay a certain amount of money towards a funeral related expense. So in the case of my mom my mom's mother and my dad, because the plots had already been paid for and marked, so that money would go for either the funeral itself or for the urn that would eventually be buried into the plot. I don't know if all of these research facilities do it that way, but this is how Genesis works. And because of this payout, that actually saved our family a whole lot of money towards these final expenses, because my grandmother didn't leave much after she died, because she had already sold the house and dispersed the money that she made off of it. And then when my dad died, he did not leave a whole lot, but what he did leave was a few gold and silver coins. They were slabbed, or at least encapsulated. Slab meaning that they were sent into a grading service for numismatic grading, and then sent back to the person who had that grading done. But my mom sold those coins in order to pay off part of my dad's final expenses. And those were actually free to him, those coins, because tenants would move out of apartments that my parents managed, and they would leave things behind and not bother to come back for them. Or they would leave no number or address for my parents to contact to try to see if they want to come back and get what they left behind. And if they didn't bother, then of course they kept it. And so those coins did come in handy when my mom needed them the most. Oh yeah, speaking of cancer, we have high cancer rates here in Iowa, and it's mystifying people as to why. Personally, I don't think it's a great mystery. It's because of all the runoff of chemicals from farms, chemical spills that end up in the water that people draw from for consumption or at least for bathing or giving water to their own animals. Yeah, we just have this growing cancer rate here in Iowa, and it's crazy what's going on. For a case of first strike, that's probably pretty darn good. They're probably above 150, closer to 175 usually. Yeah, we have a lot of places here in Iowa that have radon issues. In fact, the houses that my sisters live in, they have things installed in them that are supposed to get rid of that radon. But I have never heard of that kind of an issue in apartments. So I have lived in a ground floor apartment. I've lived in an apartment building that was built on top of a parking ramp, so the lowest floor of apartments was the 9th floor. I lived in a 3rd floor unit. Now, the building that I'm in just has 3 floors as well, so I'm on the 2nd floor. When I first came back to Iowa after leaving Arkansas, when I finished college down there, I stayed in a house on the east side. But we never heard of radon being an issue back then, so my sisters and I have never had cancer, but my oldest sister's husband has stage 4 lung cancer, and it's already spread to his lymph nodes. So he's doing chemo, but he doesn't want to quit smoking, so that's really not helping matters any for him. Yeah, because the house that I lived in way out on the east side was a split level. My bedroom was down like 3/4 below ground. But like I said, I have no idea what the radon situation was back then. So basically, the tail end of 87, I guess, so from 88 on until I think like nine, like 1990, I moved out of there because while I was gone on a trip, a guy who was living in the house decided to not tell anyone that he was inviting a couple to, I'll just say, they used my bedroom for something other than sleeping. So when I came home from that trip and I saw the evidence, I let him know that I was not happy, that my room was borrowed without my permission for someone to do something that I absolutely would not have allowed. So I decided I got to get out of there. Plus, it was a mile from the nearest bus stop at the time, and I didn't want to rely on someone else just to take me somewhere. So as soon as I was able to find a downtown apartment, I did. I don't have to worry about anyone else getting into my space, violating it. You know, secured building, that's not going to happen. Yeah, and I have lived in drafty houses, and well, this apartment can be a bit drafty because I do not have 100% seal around the air conditioner. They have to be able to remove it from the hole in the wall in order to repair or replace it. And at one time I had tried to stuff my own insulation in there, but the shelf that was right underneath it, my cat got in there and pulled it out. So that shelf is not quite up against the wall, so she can't do that now. Plus, she is getting older. She is 8 years old. So maybe she'll start slowing down a bit and not jumping up on top of. Well, she still get on my dressers in my bedroom. But she doesn't get on the counters. In the kitchen. I think that's just too high. Unless she comes through that pass-through to try to get into my sink when she wants to drink from the faucet. But yeah, she's one of those cats that prefers to drink from a trickling faucet instead of out of her bowl. I spend a lot of time in the mosque basement, so I wouldn't be surprised if it had something put in there to try to get rid of the radon from coming up through there. As it used to be a church at one time, but their community needed bigger digs, so they moved out. And our community needed bigger digs, so we moved in. But we've been doing little projects here and there. About 3 years ago, we had the roof replaced because we had some serious leaking issues. But the roofing company put a metal roof up there. And in the process, they had to replace the plywood, or some of it, that was underneath the old shingles. So we've been doing some projects as we're able to raise the money for. We need to do a little bit more electrical work, but I have yet to hear of any radon issues in there. But I'm sure that was taken care of years ago. I don't know what it's like for commercial buildings or public access spaces that have basements. Yeah, we have concrete underneath the tile floor in the basement of the mosque. So I guess all I can hope for is that the ventilation system we have in there is getting it out. As we have a furnace for the basement. We have one for the second floor, which would be where the prayer room is. And then there's a small portion above that. It would be equivalent to a loft that we have our playroom / nursery in. That can also double as a classroom or additional prayer space. But in these apartments, we each have our own heat source. So we share a water heater for all of the apartments, plus the washers in the laundry room. Although I think they heat the water. But for all the apartments, we have one water heater. So if everybody's taking a shower or using their dishwashers at the same time, we run out of hot water real quick. But these units that they put in a few years ago, they do heat and cool, whereas the old ones were just simply cool. We had the baseboard heaters along the outside walls, but the one that's right below my slider, that never really worked. And the one in my bedroom didn't work all that great either. But it wasn't so bad where I had to bust out my electric space heater that I brought from the last place I lived. But what these units do now, they do heat and cool. And they got remotes. So they're programmable, which the old ones were not. Don't have to worry about changing filters. I just take the reusable one out and I just run it underneath my tub faucet when I want to clean it out. And that usually does pretty good. And then I let it dry for at least a full day before I put it back in. But thanks for dropping in, Tim. Yeah, it would, as far as those exhaust systems, it depends on the size of the space that you're exhausting the air from. It's like when you buy a furnace or a central air system. They size that unit to the size of the space that you want to heat or cool. Like the last place I lived, I had the central air unit, the part that goes outside, plus a component inside that had to be sized to match the living space size. And they just can't, it's not a one size fits all sort of thing. So that's what you have to take into consideration with something like that. In two other apartments that I lived in, we had our own furnace and central air system. But one was easier to control than the other. Where my mom lives, they each have their own furnace and central air system. But the water heater is central for the whole building, just like it is for where I'm at here. Yeah, and the other places that I lived in, we had one water heater for the entire building. But where my mom was, only the maintenance staff can access the furnace or the central air system. They did not give my mom a key to that. I guess I'll call it the furnace closet, for lack of a better term. So their maintenance person comes in, changes the filters on a regular basis. That way the tenants don't have to deal with that. But my mom has her own washer and dryer. She's in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment because that's what was available in the subsidized housing portion of the property, and she got the last one that happened to be available at the time. And she uses the 2nd bedroom as her storage room. That way she did not have to rent a storage unit. She did not have to or split all the stuff that she wanted to store with the rest of us. And then the other bathroom serves as the guest bathroom. So when we all go to visit, most of the time we'll use the other bathroom. And if that's full, then one of us will go into the bathroom that's right near her bedroom. But they have a very nice setup in there. Yeah, you'd have to have some kind of a pump to circulate the air to move it. You'd have to have power for that. Run it off of a battery that you would either charge with solar or wind power if you had the ability to do that. That way you're not taking juice from the grid. Nope. I would not risk that either. Yeah, my maternal grandmother actually had tenants in the 3 rooms that were upstairs, and they shared a bathroom. So that was how she earned a little bit of income to help her with mortgage payments. Which this is before her second husband died from Alzheimer's. He had served in the military, so she got some perks as a result of that. She got to share his health care access. She could go to the PX on the airbase, which in this case is off because they lived in Omaha. She did not always have to go with him. She could go by herself if she wanted to. using my spork to get up the crumbs of this muffin top. But then after he died, after spending about a couple of years in a nursing home, because she had a hard time caring for him after the Alzheimer's was starting to set in. Then she got the military survivor benefits, whatever they happen to be. She can still go to the VA for health care, or she could, regardless of where she lived. So when my parents retired to Arkansas back in '06, she went down to Arkansas with them, so she could get VA health care down there. And she got cancer while she was down there. She died in August of '08. And October of that same year, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. So then my parents decided to come up here for his final days. But yeah, my grandmother got her second husband's VA benefits for being the spouse of a vet. He was in Army infantry during World War II and in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. And he saw action in both places. Yeah. And depending on what the condition is in the local market, she could get a decent amount for it. Prices here in Iowa are pretty up there. In fact, there is a member of the White Eagle Powwow organizing committee who may be looking to come back to Iowa full time. She's been living in Massachusetts for the past few years and then coming back every year for the powwow. So when it comes to the meeting, she jumps in on Zoom. But she's already starting to look for places to buy in around here. That she is a teacher and an education coordinator out there where she's currently living, so schools just started there about the same time as they did here. So she will probably decide within the next couple of years when she wants to come back to Iowa. She definitely wants to come back. But she's already scouting areas around here to decide where she wants to relocate to. And of course, she'll be looking for jobs in the area as well, so she could have that lined up when she's ready to move. Yeah, that's another thing that people are doing. Americans, some are choosing to skip the country altogether, either permanently or split time. Like Bob942, he goes to the Philippines with his Filipino wife at least twice a year, but they own a property there in the Philippines, and when she retires from her current job, then they intend to permanently relocate. They have already been shipping a lot of stuff over there, and then her relatives look after the house when they're not there. But they have already developed friendships in that community. And then I think there have been some other YouTubers who have left the country either permanently or they split time. And it's not just YouTubers. There are, I personally don't know of anyone that I have met in person who has left the US, but there is a Facebook friend who moved to Egypt quite a number of years ago, and she had her son there in Egypt, so he is a born Egyptian citizen. Now, her husband is Egyptian, and after they married here in the US, they decided to permanently move there. And then another Muslim Facebook friend has relocated. I think he is in Dubai or Qatar. I can't remember which one, but yeah, he has permanently left the US and is living in a majority Muslim country. And of course, some celebrities have done that. They have made it public that they either are planning to leave the country or they already have, and have established permanent residency and may be seeking citizenship in that other country. Yeah, that's okay. Thanks for dropping in. I'm pretty much done with everything except for my drinks. I will polish them off. It's good to have you all here for this first Sunday of this 2019 Menu 8 First Strike Ration. I'll get into the rest of this next week. I'll go ahead and sort out the items that I'm not going to use that I will stash, like this Ziploc bag. Very handy thing to have. And I'll throw in a couple other little goodies. I do want to thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. Again, the 21st, I will not be live because I don't know when I'm going to be coming back from Jester Park, where the White Eagle Multicultural Powwow takes place the third weekend in September. I do the kids' crafts for that. And I'll shoot some video and some pictures when I get a free moment. So I hope to see you next Sunday for part 2 of this ration review. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the flip side.